the paint schemes, and it was just a great bunch of fun, and developing new font styles and number styles and drop shading and variegated numbers and all that. The only trouble I ever ran into was with the Wood brothers. They had a car that they had run for years with David Pearson, were highly successful. And in 1974, the Purelator Corporation, which was their sponsor, was coming out with a new logo. So they wanted a whole new paint job. And the Wood brothers, being extremely traditional, they said, no, if it ain't broke, we're not going to fix it. We don't want anything changed. So I had to work with the corporation and the Wood family and come up with a compromise of something they would both be happy with. And a few changes, but the Woods ran that paint job for a number of seasons and had some of their biggest wins with my paint job.
You have written a couple of books. Your best-selling book is NASCAR Vault. Tell me a little bit about that book. I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, that was a lot of fun. The publisher was out of Washington State, and they approached NASCAR, and they had done a series of these type of books with actual documents that were incredibly realistically reproduced, and then they were inserted in plastic sleeves in the book. They did one on Disney, they did one on the Beatles, they did one on Elvis, and they wanted to do one on NASCAR. So I had headed up the archive department down there for a number of years, and I knew some of the more amazing artifacts, like the first race report and, all this sort of thing, this really great history. And so they were able to reproduce them almost to here at the Hall of Fame, I get about once a week somebody writing saying, hey, I got this race report. I got this thing here and this. And I say, wait, take a look at the bottom on the back. And it says in little letters, reproduction. But they think they have the real thing. But what we did, Herb Branham, who was a co-writer on that book, he was the head of communications for the Cup Series. He and I wrote the history of NASCAR. And then we had all these amazing documents that were inserted in the book, and they went along with the story of the sport. So it's just amazing stuff. It was so well done, and it's been out of print for a while, but you can still find them on Amazon. And we were extremely proud of that book, and it did very, very well.
Buz McKim is with us. He is NASCAR's Hall of Fame historian. Give me a job description with that title.
Okay. Well, let's see, when we were building the hall, I'm the guy who had to come up with everything that was going to be put in the hall, because they had to design all the exhibits around whatever I would find, and we had to find the big bang items, the things that were really going to tell a great story, and the rarer the better, the more famous the better. So we had a very limited time to do that too, because the hall was built within 3 years, and we started with absolutely nothing. So I had to scour, at the time it was a Rolodex, and call in a bunch of favors and check with collectors and come up with things that we had. We would have maybe 500 items when we opened in 2010. So along with that, my job is to develop new exhibits, make them very compelling. We like folks to leave going, wow, I didn't know that. For instance, Richard Petty was born the same day Amelia Earhart disappeared. So that's kind of a neat deal, kind of irony there. And then we found out that NASCAR had a Hawaiian division back in 1952 to 54. NASCAR, they just went out there, they set it up. There was a lot of GIs that were still in the islands there. They formed the basis of that racing organization. But Hawaii wasn't even a state at the time. It was a territory. But it proved to be very successful for a number of years. So that's a little bit of history that we discovered doing research. And I do an awful lot of writing when we have the Hall of Honor put together for our new inductees each year. There's a tremendous amount of copy that goes with that, captions for photographs and biographies and databases and all that. So we like to call it job security in the exhibits department.
What did you find to be the biggest challenge, and you still find on a day-to-day basis to be the biggest challenge with the hall?
Yeah, I think probably to come up with stuff that people hadn't heard of before, or to come up with that artifact that blows everybody away. Like we found the original information sheet that Dale Earnhardt Sr. filled out in 1975 to get his first Cup Series license. And the NASCAR News Bureau required the drivers to